What's up guys, we're back with another NECA Toon Turtles review, taking a look at another recent 2-pack. We are talking Dirtbag and GroundChuck today. Two figures that I really like when it comes to the vintage line. Two characters that really don't do a great deal in the cartoon, but they very much play into a lot of what NECA's been focusing on recently. And that's the episode that really introduces a lot of these characters. So these two, Chrome Dome, Kerma, they all kind of come around in the same point in time. So it's cool to get these guys and kind of start to round some stuff out. Of course, these are also two pretty popular characters that aren't turtles. They're also really big characters, and they make for some really massive figures, so I'm just excited to take a look at them. Of course, being a cartoon pack, that means in-store it's Target exclusive, and they come in the standard yellow and green packaging that we've been seeing for a while now, with the figures there in the window. You've got some new updated character-specific artwork on the front, product-specific shots on each side panel, and then you've got a bio for the line in general, sort of, with a large product shot of both figures, as well as a cross-sell for some recent stuff on the back there. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Dirtbag and GroundChuck 2-pack. Very much getting us close to having everything that comes from the Planet of the Turtleoids episodes and stories. We need Tattoo still, I suppose, because he's also in that story. I'm not so sure he's coming anytime soon, but I'm really happy with these two figures. Honestly, you know, don't stop watching the video right now or anything, but this may be figure for figure the best 2-pack we've gotten from NECA right now as far as the Toon Turtle line goes. This is a lot of fun crammed into two figures. So let's get started, see what these guys can do, see how they move around. I'm going to start with everyone's favorite Mole first, and then we will tackle this giant red cyborg bull. So for Dirtbag here, there is a lot of stuff that we're very familiar with. Really, both of these figures aren't exactly too far apart from, I guess, quote-unquote, the norm for the bigger, stockier figures, but they are still a little bit different, too, in terms of just overall range. So we've got a head that can look up slightly, not a whole lot. He looks down. You've got some tilt side to side, and then if you do have rotation, but of course, his head sort of juts forward, so you're going to have that thing where he's kind of looking awkwardly to the side, but it works fine. We do also have an articulated jaw here, which I really like, and it opens pretty decently too. So nice range on that. We've got our arms. Of course, they go out at the side, and they're going to rotate all the way around. You've got your bicep swivel. We've got our double jointed elbows, which give you pretty good range. I mean, that's way more than 90. And then you've got hinges and rotation at the wrist. The torso is a single buck piece that is connected with a double ball peg to the waist. So he's going to go backwards and forwards and tilt side to side, and then he's also going to rotate. This, of course, comes into play with one of his accessories when you separate him, because he is supposed to be ripped in two, and then you can use that dirt piece that he comes with, but it's a very nice point of articulation just for moving him around. Legs go out. This is the newer style, I guess the current style. Ball and socket hip system here. They kick forward. You do have a rubbery sort of diaper piece over him. They kick backwards. You've got twist up there. It's not a full thigh cut, but it's fine. I mean, I think the range is just fine there. You've got your double jointed knee, and he goes about that far back. And then we've got rocker. And we've got hinges down at those ankles. Now, I will say that the joints are painted. That's pretty normal. So, like, I've got paint flaking right now, so you're probably going to see that. And I'll mention the range on both feet is pretty good. I don't really see them being any different. Honestly, of course, they're entirely different sculpts, but I don't see them being different in terms of range of movement. So, Dirtbag here, I'm really happy with him. I think he moves really nicely. I really do like the overall base body when it comes to this guy, so he's very familiar territory. But at the same time, he does seem to move a little bit more, and he does have another additional point back here where he's got a ball jointed tail. It's mostly just a swivel. You do have a little bit of shimmy side to side, but a lot of it is going to be your rotation point. So I'm pretty happy with him. Really don't have any issues with moving this guy around. Nothing has been stuck either, and frankly, he's just very free moving right out of the box. Aesthetically, this guy is pretty much a winner from top to bottom. I don't have Frankly, I don't have any criticisms on this figure. I think that Dirtbag and the 2-pack in general is incredibly solid from a visual standpoint. They look like they jumped right out of the cartoon, and I say that a lot when it comes to this particular line, because more often than not, I mean, 95% of the time, right, there's really only one figure that truly has missed the mark with April, and Dirtbag is very much a poster child for what this line should be, and this 2-pack was sculpted and designed by Paul Harding, and he has been around for a while now and has touched a lot of product that I am a fan of, that I am looking forward to getting in the future, and this guy is definitely at the top of my list for just amazing figures right now. And like I said, I think this pack is a contender for the best 2-pack in the line right now because it's just really, really well done. There's a lot going on here. Sculpt on the fur is really nicely done. The, of course, cell-shaded design, so whack him down the middle. He's darker on the back, lighter on the front, but you've got that line work to make him pop. You've got, line work on the stomach to make him look a little bit more rotund. Even the suspenders are kind of splaying outwards to make it look like they're not really being contained very well. The rips in the pants, the furry versus non-furry components. And then one thing that I really like about this guy that I didn't know about at first, he's actually got weapon storage. So his backpack does open. It's a softer material. It's not super soft, but it's softer. And it looks great. I mean, paint on it's really good. Sculpt is nice, so it looks very fabric-y. It looks leathery in many ways. So I'm really happy with this. And, I like weapon storage. I like to be able to put stuff on the figure, even if they're not holding it, so you can fit one or two things in there, and I really like that. But the colors are nice and vibrant and saturated, and it all pops, and it looks just great. And then, of course, you've got this really nice head sculpt, and it's, of course, accentuated by the fact that you can open that jaw, so he looks, sort of neutral, a little bit stoic, kind of mean here because you've got the furrowed brow and everything, but then you can open that mouth and kind of make him even angrier, or, have him, running or an attack pose or something like that. So I'm really happy with how expressive he is, because the addition of that jaw does change him up quite a bit. And overall, when you get this guy in hand, you're going to be really, really happy with just how cartoony he looks, and the size and the heft of this figure. But then, of course, all the little detail crammed into him, sculpted into him, various finishes and sort of textures to really make this guy a focal point on the shelf. Groundchuck is very much on par with Dirtbag too when it comes to sizing these guys up in pretty much every capacity, especially when it comes to articulation. This is one of the ways where I feel like they are definitely meant to be together, and they definitely feel like they were constructed and sculpted by the same person, because they are very similar in their articulation schemes, range of motion, and just overall feel. So as far as the head goes, he can look up about that far, not too much, but a little bit. Again, he kind of hunches forward like Dirtbag does. He goes down a little bit, just a little bit. It's enough to get his head sort of forward facing, so when you want to do like a bull, like, ramming position or something, where he's running, it'll be positioned correctly. You've got a little bit of tilt side to side, and then of course you've got rotation there. He also has the articulated jaw. It doesn't open up as much as Dirtbag's does, but it opens up enough. I mean, you get the full mouth of teeth in there. Arms go out at the shoulder. They will rotate all the way around. I mean, of course, the articulation is there, but you do have to worry about the armor plating the pad here on top of that shoulder. You've got your bicep swivel. We've got double jointed elbows, so more of that same similar range there. You've got hinges and rotation at your wrist. This is another instance where you've got a double ball peg, a diaphragm cut. You could also pop him apart and throw him in that dirt accessory piece that we're going to talk about here in a bit too, if you wanted. So he goes backwards, he goes forwards really good, and it again helps with like a bull ramming pose. You've got tilt side to side. And then, of course, that's also a 0.4 rotation. Now, as far as the legs, more of the same stuff. So they kick out to the side, they kick forward. This is, again, that ball and socket kind of articulation that we're seeing going forward. They kick backwards really good. You can shimmy up there at that thigh cut. And then you've got your double jointed knees. And then we've got not as good of a rocker, but honestly better than you might expect for such wide calves, no pun intended, and hooves down here. So he goes shimmying side to side with that rocker, and then hinges on the ankle are pretty good. They go back really good, not so far forward, but I think it's been enough as far as what I've been doing with him. So he is very similar to Dirtbag. He's a little bit different. I know obviously they're different construction, different sculpt in unique figures and characters, but they are very, very close to each other in terms of how they're built, how they feel, and the overall articulation scheme here. And then again, it's another instance where the sculpt on this figure is just, it's just tremendous. I really like this one. And I think Groundchuck is probably my favorite of the two. I'm not sure there's any particular reason other than the fact that I just like what he's got going on. I like the whole cyborg bull aspect more than the mole figure. But I also really have a soft spot for this vintage figure. And these two guys are both still very similar to the vintage figures too. So that definitely is helping them, at least from a nostalgia standpoint for me, because, you know, like so many other Turtles things, these guys are not in the show very much and they don't exactly do a great deal. But damn if they don't look like they jumped right out of the show. I mean, there's just so much going on, especially with Groundchuck, because of course he is a cyborg bull. So he has all of those cybernetic components on the legs. He's got the armor plating. He's got the half head here. In the show, his horn was actually a laser too, so that was kind of cool. Like the very tip of it peeled back and a laser beam shot out. You've got the reticle on there. You've got the bull, big bull nose right there with the ring, and then of course more of that open mouth, which changes up the figure quite a bit. So it's just an entirely different look and feel once you kind of change up his expression. But all of the paint on him is really clean and crisp. Again, there's a lot of different colors, from the green and browns on the hands to the knee pads to these targets to the skull on his shoulder pad here. All of this white and gray and all the black line work, and just the asymmetrical nature of this figure too really works for me, and I tend to like that on figures, and he has it in spades really. And then there's one little detail that I absolutely love. He has the foot emblem on his arm, and it's I thought it was going to be like a tattoo, so painted on there, but it's actually a brand. So it's actually sculpted in there, so it's recessed, and you've got the purple void in there with all of that black line work. So it's one of those little details that I think kind of accentuates the sculpt quite a bit. And frankly, there's a lot of detail all over this guy, tons of paint, a lot of differing colors that clash and sort of contrast with each other, but it works to sell the idea really, really well that this figure is essentially just supposed to be jumping out of the screen at us and being that 2D representation made in plastic. And I think NECA really outdid themselves with this figure in particular, but of course with this set as a whole, because they both look tremendous. But I have a big fondness for this guy's design, and I think it's been just really, really well handled here. And then, of course, we have to do size comparisons because these guys are a little bit different from the norm. They're not huge. These are not massive figures, but they are bigger, and they are definitely chunky, which I do like. So we've got our disguise set Donatello here. So this is, of course, the most recent Donatello that we've gotten. And you see that he's a little bit shorter, but it's the bulk that kind of changes these guys up and make them seem a lot larger in many respects. So we've gotten a NECA turtle here. Let's go something a little bit different. So here's a Marvel Legends figure. So here's a very standard Marvel Legends figure. This is the recent Walgreens, if you can find him, Nova figure. And of course, he is basically the same height, but again, it's still a proportions thing where they are very, very different and far apart from one another. And then here is a Mythic Legions. So here is Tibius from the recent All-Stars 4 wave. And then for something that's kind of more in their scale, but also stockier and chunkier than your average figure, here they are with the Ultimates Slide. So I think he's a pretty good representation of how big these guys are, because he is essentially the same height, but he's a lot beefier than they are. No pun intended again with this guy, but I think it gives a good idea of exactly how big they are, especially when you throw something like this into the mix too, where you can see just how slender Nova is by comparison to what are really some very chunky figures that just don't happen to be all that tall. Now, as far as accessories goes, these guys are pretty well stacked. This is another instance where these characters aren't in the show for very much time at all, so they don't have a ton of stuff, but NECA still managed to give us a decent amount here. The first thing we'll talk about, of course, we'll talk about hands, get them out of the way. So these guys come with fists on them in the box. You get a set of kind of open palm style pose hands. So you get a set for each. So of course, 2 hands for each figure. And then you also get a set of gripping hands for each figure. So 3 total sets of hands for both of these guys. We get this guy here, which I'm pretty sure is like a tracking device, I want to say, if I can remember correctly. You know, I don't commit these episodes to memory or anything. We get Dirtbag's shovel. And of course, this is very cel-shaded, very animation style. We get Dirtbag's gun, which is a really weird design. I mean, this is a very Turtles looking design, honestly. Lots of detail, a lot of paint apps on it too. Varying colors and just an odd shape all around. And then we get his drill too. So you can get him to hold this with both of those gripping hands and then of course be drilling into the ground. It's big, it's kind of hefty, but it looks really good. Very, very cartoony. And then we also get the gun for Groundchuck here. So he doesn't really get as much specific stuff as Dirtbag does, but he also, I don't think, has a lot either. And his gun is also just really weird. I mean, it's very, I mean, look at this goofy, stupid thing. It's very much a bull-themed gun, which of course makes perfect sense for Turtles, but is no less ridiculous. And then we also get the, I mean, you've obviously seen it, we get the dirt base for Dirtbag, because of course he's a mole, so he can dig and burrow, and he's coming up out of ground. So this is very reminiscent of like the Roadkill Rodney stuff that we got. And again, like I said, you will pop him apart, you know, just a double ball peg. I didn't even need to heat him up to do this. Just pop him apart at the waist, and he will sit in there. You know, you can use these open palm hands to have him kind of pushing himself up off the dirt. But it's a really cool way to just change up what you're going to do with him. I'm half tempted to get a second set just to be able to do this as well. I'm going to err on the side of not doing that. But I think it would be a cool idea to be able to have both display options. So you've got a full-size Dirtbag and then maybe another one peeking out from another part in your display. But this thing's really cool. I mean, it fits him really well. It's sized nicely, and it does have, I mean, a lot of paint apps. It's kind of flexible. It's not super hard plastic by any means, so it's not got a little bit of flexibility to it. But it looks great, and it's another goofy little fun way to change up your display and have Dirtbag in a very non-standard pose. So yeah, obviously I really like this set. I again will go as far as to say that I think this is quite possibly the best 2-pack we've gotten in the line. And I've been going through my head, you know, of thinking what are the 2-packs we've gotten, and there's a lot of great stuff in this line. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm very much hardcore about this particular line from NECA, but both of these figures are just firing on all cylinders at all times. Everything about them, from articulation to paint to sculpt to accessories with this set, it's a very much on set, and I think they did a really solid job here from pretty much every facet. I really enjoy these guys. I think they are a great addition to the lineup, especially when you take into consideration that NECA has essentially given us almost everything that goes along with the Planet of the Turtleoids story, and it's really cool to be able to get that kind of contained thing where all of this stuff, you know, these guys, Kerma, Chrome Dome, they all appear and first appear in that story. So it's cool to be able to get this stuff and to finally have some of these cartoon accurate designs on our shelf. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys Dirtbag and Groundchuck. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.